Okay, so the final tutorial for the day will be a mask, because why not? I had the time. So what I did here is, in this Blender scene, I imported the vanilla head model 01, and I imported the helmet model 01, the very first variation, which I believe is the wizard hat that you wear in character creation or in the vanilla outfits. Now, when importing the helmet, you get this little file here, and it's called CL Helm 1 in this case. What its name doesn't matter. Basically, what this file does is, it's a smart material. You never delete it, you just hide it. But what it does is it activates a certain look on your hair if you have a hair style, and it activates a certain material which shows whether the hair to hide the hair, whether the hair show partial hair and hidden hair. Now these are the options that you find when you equip certain helmets and you get that little ponytail, or if you get the hair showing on the side, or if it balds you. That's what this does. In this case, we're not going to touch it because we can assign that later, so we just deactivate it. Now normally when you're doing a helmet or a mask or any sort, you just insert this this hat, and you just kind of place your own, and you're good to go. But I always insert a human head just as a reference, because in the end we will delete the face or this head model and keep just the hat that we put on. And in this case will be Mr. Monkey. So we are going to put monkey head on this head, and we're keeping this hat here because we're going to study it to take our weights from that. Now I say weights because, as you see, there is a skeleton present in the scene, which means at some point in this scene or in this project, we will have to modify weights so that when a certain part of the bone moves, and this includes the face, that the mesh moves with that bone. That's what these vertex groups are. Basically, whenever you have an armature, and each different piece has a different name, based off what parts of that mesh are controlled by which part of that bone has authority over, or is able to manipulate that part of the mesh. Now, as you can see, we have all of these little bones here in the face. This is where you get your facial animations. Okay, so that being said, let's go ahead and let's turn off our helmet because we don't need it. All we need right now is, we don't even need our skeleton. Let's deactivate that. All we need to do with here is simply place this over the head where we want it, and then we'll copy over the transfer. We'll transfer the weights on over, and we'll assign the weights to the heads. That way, when the head moves, this moves with it. So what I'm doing, I'm going to go to the side view. I'm going to press A to select all. I'm going to bring it on up. Bring it on here. Try to line it up just by a lazy lineup. Kind of get an idea of where the eyes are. And, you know, I like to line it up to the eyes, and then from the eyes I press S and scale, and I scale outward because at least the eyes will be lined up properly. And go ahead and scale that back up a little more. It's going to be a big head. Okay, now obviously this is not going to work, so what I do is I just kind of find a happy medium. I'm going to scale it on the y-axis only, which is the front and back. Just enough to pull it, and maybe pull it out a little more. Okay, then I'm going to scale it on the z-axis, which is the up and down. And I want to make sure that I don't bring these eyelids up too high, because you see how they won't match. In this case they still do, which is okay. Okay, and maybe I'm going to scale it in all directions just for a good measure. I do that because underneath, if we go into edit wireframe, underneath the head, we want to give it a little space so the head doesn't have an opportunity of popping out. Now normally if you don't have this smart texture in here, this big giant triangle, what happens is if the character has a hair set, it's not going to recognize that hair set, and the hair is going to clip through the monkey face, which to be quite honest, in this case, would play more to its effect. But we're not going to do that in this case. I like to do it correctly. So that's pretty much it. We've just made our new helmet. Well, helm in a technical sense, but a mask. And I say that because the rest of the process is pretty simple. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, if you remember, we disabled our helmet. I'm going to click on it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to study this helmet, and as you can see, the helmet only has one bone. It has the B45, and the B45 bone is actually this. It's not that bone because it's not shown here. It's actually given a different name. You really can't find it here, but it's the bone that controls the head. So B45 is also known as the head. I know this from extensive review and research, but that's what it is. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the hat. I'm going to go into weight paint. And as you can see, when B45 is highlighted, which is, it's only highlighted. If I create a new one, it's going to be blue. But I'm going to click on the B45. It turns red. What that means essentially is all of these pixels on a scale of blue being the least and red being the most. I'm not pixels, vertex, all these vertex, all of these polys, or vertices are all assigned to this bone. Okay, so pretty much this bone is controlling everything in this hat, and that's the head. So when the head moves left and right, the entire hat moves left and right. If the B45 was only controlling the brim, when the head moves left, only this part of the brim moves left, and all of this is static. Okay, so I'm saying that because what we're going to do is we are going to apply the same thing to our new head. So I'm going to disable this. I'm going to go in here, and we have by default from its own user from where I ripped the mask from, it has its own weights, and they're assigned to bones that are not present. So what we can do is delete just the one. This is all red, which is fine because that's what we're going to use. Actually, I'm going to select everything. I'm going to rename this bone to B45 because that's the one that the helm uses, B45. Okay, I'm going to select everything by hitting A, select all, even all of this down here. I'm going to press assign and make sure the weight is on 1, and that's going to assign it full weight to the B45 bone. Okay, now if I were to select, say, this part, deselect this part and click remove, and when I go into weights, see, it's only assigned just that part. So I want to make sure that I click assign everything to that B45 bone, which is the head bone. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and click off, delete the vertex groups. It's not a big deal if you forget to do that. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that I assign this new bone, because it has a weight, but it has, that weight must correspond with an actual armature, which is a fancy word skeleton for what we do our rig. Okay, so we want to be able to assign this 45 to an armature, and that would be the HHM scale. If we click object here, click HHM scale, and what I like to do for safety is I like to copy by hovering over and press Control C, hovering over here and pressing Control V. You do not press apply. You leave it as is, and you're good to go. This just says that this weight is fixated to the HHM skeleton. So as long as the HHM skeleton has a bone called B45, whenever that HHF skeleton B45 bone moves, which is the head, it will move this whole entire mask as well. Okay, so if we even go look at the head here, the vanilla head model, and I go into weight paint, and if we look for the B45 bone, that's pretty much controlling most of the head. That's why hats usually get controlled, because it's all red anyway. In this case, I want the whole entire head to move just because I don't want to be so accurate. Now you can get in there and you can make the monkey mouth move when the mouth moves. That's a little more detailed. It's a little more at your discretion if you want, but this is a very simple tutorial. I am not going to get into that portion. So that being said, I'm going to jump back out, and I am going to turn on my monkey mask, and then I am going to go ahead and copy the name of this helmet by double clicking, press Control C. We no longer need it, so we would delete it because this new monkey helmet will take on that name. And this is pretty much what we're doing, is we're making our new helmet use the same slot number as the first one, and then we test it in game, and if we like it, what we do is we export it out to a slot that is not being used, therefore it can show in a different slot and you don't override all of your vanilla slots. So let's go ahead and make sure that everything is correct. We no longer need this vanilla head. That was only to serve as a reference, so we can delete that as well. We are now doing cleanup. We're cleaning up the scene so we can export it. All we need is the armature, because that needs to be present in order for this to be assigned to it. If you delete this armature, then you will break the connection here between the object, where it's the armature itself, and the object. The object being this mask. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go from here all the way to our textures and make sure everything is on par. All right, so we have our armature set. We're good to go. Now we're going to go into a mesh. We must always match, I'm hitting Control C there, the object with the data identifier. And I said this in the tutorials, but if you get the 001, we're going to paste it over twice, and then we're good to go. You want to make sure you have your one bone there. You want to make sure that it's tied down to that bone. Okay. And our UV map is present. We also want to go into our materials, and we want to make sure that our object name also matches our material name. So I did that too by just pasting twice. You can paste a few times if you want to be sure. And I'm also going to now I normally put the specularity at this setting. Specular map at 0.8, 0.8, 0.8, intensity 0.8, and 100. I don't know if it's necessary for this mask because it wouldn't really have a big shine on it given that it's all hair, but just force of habit, I'm going to leave it like that. Then we're going to hop over to textures. It's saying that this is assigned, this is the name of the textures that it has. This is the diffuse map and this is the normal map. And if we look in our monkey textures that I ripped the file from, we have those here, except that I think it's looking for, let's see, call one. Oh, we do have target files. Here it says PNG. That doesn't matter. As long as it finds this file without the extension, it doesn't matter if it's PNG, JPEG. As long as you have a TGA, which is a target file, or a DDS file, it'll find that file name. So you're fine. We're good to go here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to export that out as our helmet. Okay. So I'm going to go to File. I'm going to export Neverwinter Nights 2. I'm going to click Alpha Test. And we're not going to click head as none of this matters. What we are going to click is go to where we were. I'm going to override my original helmet and save it out. And we're good to go. Now, just going to double verify with the MDB cloner that our monkey mask is actually showing the correct textures. See? As I stated here, it did not pick up the PNG, so it doesn't matter. As long as you have this in your, as the file is called this, it will find it in your override or in the module or whatever you have it. And in this case, we have it right here, which is a TGA file, which is one of the two extensions that Neverwinter Nights 2 can read. That plays into our favor, so there's no need to convert over. All right, now that that's done, I'm gonna go ahead and fire up the game. I'm just going to go to New Game, New Module, and choose the first module. It's the fastest way to get into the creator mode. I'm going to go to Create Character. I'm going to select Human. Forgive the overrides. I have stuff on there. And as you know, obviously it's a helmet, so we have to somehow get a helmet on him to preview it. But from my recollection, I remember that if we go forward one and choose the wizard, I believe it is, or one of these, it has the helmet on it already. There it is. Ooh, and it's shiny because we turned up that specularity map. Now, I'm going to fix that right now. You don't have to worry about what happened there. I certainly don't want to scare you away by trying to explain it. It's a simple mishap that happens. So I'm just going to go ahead and fix it. I'm assuming, yes, there is no alpha channel here. So I'm going to put an alpha channel by simply tossing one in there. And it's still kind of bright for an alpha channel. Actually, Control D. Alright, now that that's fixed, this should automatically update as soon as I go back one and go back forward. And there we go. Hey, we even have our ponytail because I believe that this helmet, that smart material, by default of that first helmet, it took on this smart material, which I believe was set for this particular helmet to show a ponytail. That can always be changed using the MDB configuration tool. And it's all of a sudden not working for me because it wants to make me look stupid. All right, here we go. And if we go with the MDB configuration tool, file open, and we go ahead and choose, where is that at? That would be under overrides. And I think it's under weapons. Words, monkey mask. And if we open up here, we see the helm behavior. When we click on this, it recognizes these three parts in the MDB, in the model. It recognizes the model itself, where you can adjust the specular map here and the values here. Also, you can turn on any of these texture flags. That way, if you don't want it to cast shadows, anything like that. But if we go to this little thing, it's called CL Helm 01. This is a helmet hair hiding behavior flag. Okay. And so what this does is you can choose to say head hidden, you want to hide the hair, none hidden, or whatever. So basically this tells you how it would read hair underneath. If the character has long hair, do you want it to partially hide the hair? Do you want it to keep the hair hidden, none hidden? So if I were to go, say, for example, hair hidden, okay, and then if I were to go to file, save, and I go into the actual game, I click off of it and go back on it, hair is now hidden. And we're good to go. This actually might help Tarina or Ryfox with a question that she had before. Okay, so there's our monkey man, and we're good to go. Now that's one tough monkey mage. All right, so there you go, people. That's how you do a helmet and or mask in Neverwinter Nights 2. Not so hard, is it? All you got to do is pretty much line it up over the head. Disable that. Import a vanilla head, put the mask over it, make sure that you assign it all of the helmet to this bone B45, which is the head. Okay, make sure you assign it to the actual skeleton. Just make sure your materials and your textures are good to go. Export it out, and there you're good to go. And it shows in game. All you got to do now is export it back out to whatever slot you want it to be saved at, and you're good to go. It's taking me a little screenshot here because I'm gonna put a little. There we go. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching, and the more you know.